We are back in BS3 for more Sky Bet Championship action, and it would be fair to say there is a buzz in the air this afternoon. Bristol City look to go 9 unbeaten today for the visit of Norwich City. Nigel Pearson's side have found that feel-good factor in 2023. Victory in Lancashire last week ended a 12-year spell at Deepdale without victory that had been hanging over the Robins. 3 fixtures in quick succession before the arrival of Erling Haaland and company at the end of the month. Dare we start to believe? Warm welcome to Robins TV. Thanks for joining us once again wherever you are watching this afternoon around the world. Massive game for Bristol City against a side that have promotion aspirations themselves. I'm delighted to say that joining me today in the Robins TV studio is a man that is unfortunately not out on the pitch this afternoon, but hopefully you can give us some valuable insight today. Cal, how are you feeling? Obviously gutted to not be playing today.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, it's injuries though, and it's part of the game. I'm glad that the team's kind of in a good position, whereas when I got injured previously it was tough to watch. We weren't in a great run and I felt like I couldn't help and be involved. I would rather have been out there with the boys, but now, as I say, they're in a good position, and at the end of the day that's what it's about. It's about the team, but I'm disappointed I can't feature today. As you say, there's a lot of good games coming up as well, and we're in a good spot, but I'll do what I can and support the boys.
Yeah, and you seem to, I mean, despite the injury, you seem to be settling into life in Bristol. You made a real impression on the fans, it feels, having spoken to a lot of them as well. How have you found the first, sort of 6 to 8 months down here in the southwest? You loving life as a Bristol City player?
Yeah, exactly that. I've settled in so quickly. I love it in terms of into the changing room, the coaching staff, and in the place in general. Obviously, I've got missus, 2 young kids. They absolutely love it here. They seem to be settled great, and the place, I love the city. It's such a good city, and I love living here. But at the end of the day, I've came here to try and be successful and do well. And if I kind of try and summarise the football, I don't like to do that halfway through a season or before the end of the season. But there's been spells, there's been good spells, and there's been tough spells. But I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of the way that we've come through that in the last 8 games. I thought we've looked very solid, very good, building that momentum now. I think we're won 4 wins out of the last 5, so we're in a good spot. And but yeah, for the most part, I've settled in really well.
Yeah, and it seems to be that this unbeaten run has come around a sort of formation switch as well. You yourself pushing into midfield. Is it down to that? What do you kind of think has changed since that Millwall game? Because that was the start of this unbeaten run.
I think there'll be a lot of factors, a lot of little tiny factors, and you can go on about formations and stuff, which is important in the game, but there's just a different feel about it. There's a different look. Players maybe comfortable in positions that they've obviously went into, and again, players have upped their form. Players are doing better, and we're just knitting better as a team. I feel in the changing room we're getting on a lot better, and it's like you say, when you get in that run, it's just winning becomes habit, and fortunate enough for us, we're on that now, but it's just about continuing the standards that's got us there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there seems to be a great team spirit. Let's have a look at the sides, though, that will go face to face today, starting with the away team. 2 changes for David Wagner's side, with first choice goalkeeper Angus Gunn returning following a hip injury. Krul criticised last weekend for a mistake for the opening goal against Burnley, and it's become a bit of an ongoing battle for that starting berth between the sticks. The other change sees Onel Hernandez drop out of that midfield diamond. He's replaced by Nunez. And then up front for the Canaries, familiar names there, the dangerous duo, US international Josh Sargent, who sits on 10 goals, as well as Teemu Pukki, who himself sits on 10 goals, the most goal involvements of any championship player in the division this season. Pukki now just 3 games away from 200 for the Norfolk side. And then on the bench there, the returning Ben Gibson following an injury layoff as well. And Cal, they're dangerous, those 2 up front. Teemu Pukki and Josh Sargent, they've been, well, Pukki in particular has been around at this level for a while, but those are the main threats for Bristol City today.
Yeah, looking at the screen there, there's a lot of good players in that team, but they are the 2 that you've rightly pointed out there. Sargent, great player, we know that for the last game, and he nicked in, he managed to get a goal, and Pukki also got a goal, but I think there was lots of positives to take for that game. I thought it was one of our better performances, really strong performance. We took it to a great side, and so we can take confidence going into today's game for that. But I think the almost the learning part of that game that we know is it came from my behalf, but stepping them in and giving it away, and they were straight through and goal. And I think that's your concentration's got to be so vital, especially with Pukki, because he's a Premier League finisher, and if you give someone else a chance in the league, they might let you off with it, but he certainly won't.
Yeah, absolutely. It felt like a game, the one at Carrow Road, where Mark Sykes really introduced himself as a Bristol City player. He was very impressive from memory that day. Let's look at Bristol City's starting 11. Obviously just the one change. Cal is here with us. He's replaced today by Joe Williams in the heart of that midfield alongside Matty James. The back four remains. George Tanner, praised by Nigel Pearson during his press conference this week. Atkinson and Viner remain. O'Leary between the sticks. Cam Pring has been in excellent form of late as well. Then Alex Scott, who I think we've seen some of the best football he's displayed in a Bristol City shirt more recently. And then that three up top that provide all the energy and were responsible for those counter-attacking goals at Preston last weekend. Harry Cornick and Mehmeti could make their Ashton Gate bow this afternoon, which would be fantastic as well. Thomas Callas returned to the bench too, along with Andy Vyman and Andy King, the only switch on the bench as well. Right, let's hear from the man that picked today's side. It's Nigel Pearson.
No, I start with team news. Joe Williams in for Cal Naismith. Does that change the dynamic of the team, how you want to play? What will Joe bring?
No, it doesn't really change anything, I suppose. The only thing I think would be that Joe likes to press a little bit more, but the formation's the same, and we will go about this game in the same sort of way. We want to make sure that we're as close to our best as we can. We know we're playing against a good side today. They've made a couple of changes, and apparently they are mixing the game up a little bit more. I just think it'll be a good competitive game today. We've got to be prepared to get at them, very much in the same way that we did at their place. But of course, they're a side who have quality, and they'll be one of the favourites to go back up again this year.
That game at Norwich was quite open. We had our chances. Perhaps should have got more out of that game than we did. Do you anticipate a similar style of match?
Well, if it's as open, then there'll be goals in it. For sure, but we were aware that there were areas of our game that we needed to tighten up on after that game. But we created chances in that game because of our intent and the way that we were prepared to press them, and also, be ourselves. I think it's always important, especially at home, to try and impose ourselves on our opponents, whoever they are. It doesn't matter who they are. To keep our unbeaten run going, we'll need to play well, but the players are in good form and in a good state of mind, so I look forward to the game.
Potential home debuts for Anis Mehmeti, Harry Cornick, another strong bench. How important will those substitutes potentially be?
The bench is always very important because players can be on in the first minute. I mean, that's the nature of any sort of game of football, but certainly at championship level, there is an intensity that we need to try and maintain. Substitutes today are going to be key. So whether that's in the first half or whether that's late in the game, we will need positive contributions from anybody who goes onto the field today.
All the best.
Cheers, thanks.
Nigel Pearson there with Dave Barton down in the tunnel. So just the one change for Bristol City. But I want to reflect on the bench. Anis Mehmeti and Harry Cornick on the bench again today could make their Ashton Gate debut. They seem to have settled in really well, and everybody I've spoken to seems to be saying they're making a real impression as well.
No, they're great lads, and look, I think that's most important now when you're trying to build that togetherness and that connection in the changing room, and then with the fans, I think you've got to sign the right characters, and they two are. I obviously know Harry Cornick from Luton, and he's a massive character. He's great for the changing room, but also a great player. And then Anis is slotted straight in. He seems like a great lad. Been very impressed with him in training, so I think he's one that's going to get the Bristol City fans very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Cal, right, today is a momentous day. It's the 41st anniversary of the selfless act of the Ashton Gate 8, and earlier on this afternoon, Robin's TV caught up with one of the famous faces, David Rogers.
David, 41 years ago, you and 7 others made a huge sacrifice for this club. How does it feel being in and around this stadium now?
Well, obviously a lot of things have happened in the last 16 months as such, because, you know, from feeling sort of almost like outcasts when we had the 40th anniversary a year ago in February, you just felt that at last the club were actually, you know, trying to help you possibly heal the wounds of previous years. And of course, since then, it's developed even further with the former Players Association and us, well, 4 of the 8 becoming club ambassadors. Because if you'd have said that to me 16 months, 18 months ago, I'd have said it's never going to happen. But life's gone on. Love it. Love coming down. I mean, meeting up with old friends, not only the ones here today, but other former players, because of this facility, have come in and you know, renewed acquaintances. And of course, the major thing is that you can go out to the supporters in the hospitality suites and elsewhere and, you know, chat to them, because at the end of it all, they're the ones who are really putting in the money here in the club.
It's a brilliant point, and you know, you mentioned the supporters. I understand you've been in the fan village today. You know, how is it when you're having conversations with supporters about, you know, what happened those years ago and where the club's going now?
Well, I think the interesting thing is when you chat to most of them, they weren't born when it happened. There are obviously more senior supporters, and I remember chatting to 2 youngish couples in the Lansdowne suite a few matches ago, and they had never heard of the Ashton Gate 8. And when they said, well, was it important? And I said, well, it's a long story, but basically, why don't you Google it and find out what happened? And then someone else piped in and said, oh, they tore their contracts up so they could save the club. And these 4 people, you know, their mouths just dropped, the jaws just dropped. My God, did you do that? Sort of, you know. So, yeah, the supporters have taken it great, I think.
One of the heroes, David Rogers, there with Chris, our reporter for this afternoon. Right, it's time for us to take a short break. We'll be back with more from Cal, and we'll have the Preston highlights from last week as well.
Might not wanna get close. We a little wild war, covered in tattoos. Run it up, taking all the views. Stepping on place, feeling the fear. I know you feeling it in the air. Whole squad wearing all black. Motivation's looking real bad. We back to the bone, raising a fire alone. We ain't never needed nobody. Give me 6 feet, this is my party. Ain't got no feelings, we heartless. Take a peek inside the darkness. Blow up the spot, then we run it. Ready or not, here we coming.
So we've got all this outdoor space here, and it's perfect for companies to come in, whether they're small or large. So we cater for maybe a team of 12 or a team of 800. They can come here, have a really positive experience, and be rewarded for all their hard work in the office or whatever industry they're from.
As we've got such a big company, a lot of us don't see each other.
Being able for the first time to get everyone out together in one place doing an activity together was great for team bonding and boosting that morale.
We can hone in on specific skills such as communication, leadership, teamwork, resilience. Here we've got a 400-metre military assault course, which is fantastic for team building. If you want a morale booster, this is the place to come.
Welcome back to Robins TV. Not long to go now until kick-off. Bristol City against Norwich in the Sky Bet Championship today. Bristol City looking to make it 9 unbeaten. 2023 has got off to a fantastic start. Who knows where we'll be in a few weeks' time. Joining me today in the Robins TV studio is none other than Cal Naismith. Cal seems to be a feel-good factor at the moment for Bristol City. Where do you think the main threats will come from Norwich today? Of course, it's a different outfit to that of Preston. Nigel Pearson said in the week they're one of the fittest sides in the league. I'm not sure necessarily what he's kind of measuring that from, but they're going to be dangerous today. Yes,
They'll have a lot of energy. Obviously, the manager has watched plenty of footage on them, and he's come up with a game plan, and he's seen that they're a team that works really hard. So, but I think it's the basics that we've been doing really well. So we're going to need to match them with that. But we've spoke about their threats, obviously Sargent and Pookie, but you can't get too caught up in them. I think their fullbacks are great players. They'll bomb on for them. Kieran Dowell's a player I know well that I played with. He's a very good player. He can make something out of nothing. So they've got lots and lots of threats. But yes, so have we. So I'm looking forward to the game. And switching to City, we just saw some of the younger players warming up there. We've heard you speaking about Alex Scott and how impressive he's been. Some former colleagues there getting together. But how far do you think he could go in the game? And some of these younger players, I mean, Tommy Conway has obviously had a fantastic season to this point, unfortunately out at the moment. But Alex Scott, starting with him, the ceiling seems very high. It does. It seems very high, and obviously I've got excited about him before when I've spoken. But it's tough because you don't want to put too much pressure on him. As a young lad, there's still so many different scenarios that you need to go through. But when I look at a young lad and how they're developing, how they're playing, I don't just look at how they are on the pitch. I'll kind of look at how they are as people, how they are around the place, how they train, how they think when you ask them certain questions. And to be fair to Alex Scott, he's just an unbelievable young lad to work with. It's like he's 28 years old. He's got such a wise head in his shoulders, and so I look at all that and I put all that together, and I think he's got an incredible chance at making it to a really high level. Yeah, absolutely. And looking back at your time with the club, what was said to you in terms of your role, not necessarily from a playing perspective, but leadership-wise, when you came in and you had those initial discussions with Nigel Pearson? What was he asking of you to come this season? I've got a sort of memory of the Forest Green game. I think it was one of the first ones in pre-season, and it was clear how vocal you were, and you saw that as your role kind of quite early on the pitch. Yeah, so I've always been like that, and I took it on even more so at my previous club. It was there. I was a kind of senior figure. I was playing week in, week out, and just to try and help people, to try and help the team. And it's a lot to try and help myself as well. When I'm constantly being vocal, then I know that I need to kind of lead by example in what I'm saying, so I need to make sure my standards are high. So there's a bit of that, but just to help others as well. And listen, I love it back, and I love the relationship I've got now with the players, particularly when I was playing in the back line. I've seen players like Zach Viner who were maybe a bit quiet at the beginning of the season, and I would try and get him up and get him going, and now you just see his performances, how incredible he's been. But Zach will be one as well. If I tell him something that needs to be better, then he'll not be slow in telling me something that needs to be better. And I feel you need that on the pitch. You need to demand for each other in the right way, in a respectful manner, but you certainly got to demand that we hit the high standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Zach Viner was particularly vocal last weekend. You could see the camaraderie among the side up at Deepdale. Valuable 3 points on the road, and here's all the action.
And 2 of the last 3 are in the Championship, although both of those, of course, have come on the road. It's Stoke and Birmingham. Good start from North Ends. The Bristol City boot sees to that, though. Dished into the area, good ball, and unlucky. Very, very bright and inventive start from Preston North End. Tom Cannon in the thick of things, on loan from Everton. He's got them going. Unbeaten in 4 league games, Bristol City. They went to Reading. October 22nd was their last away defeat. He's hooked forward. It should be dealt with. Oh, it isn't dealt with. And Bristol City are in, surely, for the opening goal at Deepdale. What a mistake. And that just sums up the Lily Whites' home luck at the moment. Mark Sykes has stolen in for Bristol City. What a howler! What a howler! And the Robins hit the front in the northwest. Oh, goodness me, Robbie Brady. And then the goalkeeper. And Mark Sykes. It was a tap-in. Preston just need to get to half-time, 1 down. No worse, ideally. And then regroup and go again in the second period. Bristol City haven't really threatened much since they scored the opening goal, although they might here. That's a lovely ball forward. Naki Wells. Bell's in the middle. It's Wells to Bell. It's a stunning counter-attack from Bristol City. Sam Bell does it again in added time at the end of the first half. It's his first Championship goal for the Robins. He's been doing it in the FA Cup, but this is the first time he's done it in the Championship. Brilliant play from Scott to release Naki Wells, and it's Sam Bell, who scored twice against West Brom in the Cup last weekend, puts Bristol City further in front, 2-0. Season has been scoring goals. They've scored only 26. Only Huddersfield and Cardiff have managed fewer. That's well hit. Fumbled by the goalkeeper and in. They do have a route back. It's Ched Evans, just past the hour mark. Ryan Ledson's effort was too hot for O'Leary to handle, and Evans steals in. A 7th goal in 9 games for Evans. Preston have one back, it's game on.
A dogged display by Bristol City to make them 8 unbeaten in all competitions. Hopefully it will be 9 today. Cal, if I could push you for a sort of score prediction, maybe goal scorer as well?
Goal scorers, I'm going to go 2-0 Bristol City. I just feel a lot's been spoken about Norwich and how good a side they are, and we know that, but I feel we're the team in form. We've got a really good connection at the minute with the fans, and I know they'll get behind us. I just feel that we'll win 2-0. I'm going to go Naki Wells, and Alex Scott is he's just on it at the minute, and I can see him adding his goal this season.
Brilliant, fantastic. Thank you very much, Cal. Right, if you are overseas, you can still download your Matchday Pass, but it's time for us to say goodbye to those of you that are watching on Facebook and YouTube.